Welcome to MOBE Mondays.
Good evening. My name is Yvette Moyo, and I am so happy to welcome you tonight to this MOBE Mondays segment. For those of you who are new to this platform, which was born out of the COVID pandemic and our need to shelter in and also cancel our annual MOBE Symposium, we decided that we do a few weeks of panels that discussions that you normally would not hear other than at our conference. And we have a hashtag only at MOBE. But those few weeks of Monday MOBEs have transformed into now our 37 weeks and probably a few more than that of actual programming because we have done some MOBE Tuesday specials. And so it provides a flexibility and a rhythm that we are able to see professionals at the top of their game and how they work together and to approach some of the issues in the industry, which is the legacy of MOBE. In our early years, we were able to track within 12 years, $200 million of business deals that had actually been closed as a result with people that have met each other at our conferences. And that became what we call the MOBE way, to do deals, to seek opportunities to align with other African Americans to show bottom line results for small businesses as well as corporations in the entertainment and marketing and advertising field. So this topic today is very exciting to me. MOBE just continues to amaze me with the caliber of people we continue to attract. And I just want to hold up a few names of people back when I was selling advertising that I just want to hold up their names. The Frank Mingos and Carolyn Jones, the Clyde Allens from Seagram, who created a whole new pathway for Seagram to do business with Black-owned companies. The Noel Hankins, the Tom Burrells, who I did a lot of business with Burrell Advertising, the Linda Jeffersons, the Chuck Morrisons that worked at Burrell and also Uniworld, that came to lead Uniworld, that these are people that actually built empires of Black media because of who they were and what the corporate situation looked like back in the day when I was, on Madison Avenue selling ads for the publication I represented. So this topic is of high importance to me, and the person that is moderating with us tonight, for us tonight, I'm just honored to have her. Marketing opportunities in business and entertainment is what MOBE stands for. And this particular person, Ericka Riggs, that'll be leading the conversation tonight, was back in the day for a minute at the amazing time that we launched a brand called MOBE. And so I'm very happy to introduce Ericka Riggs. And she is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Omnicom Specialty Marketing Group. And today is her first day on the job. Welcome, Ericka, and congratulations. That's huge. That is extremely huge. And Omnicom, let me say that again, Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Omnicom Specialty Markets Group. Whoever knew, and if you know anything about some of these big ad agencies, that title wouldn't have been in our future just shortly ago. Okay, so today is her first day on the job, and look where she is at MOBE on a Black-owned platform. Thank you very much. Now, Ericka was recently Foundation and Inclusion Director for the Ad Club of New York and actively advocates for diversity, equity, and inclusion in advertising and the marketing industries. And she has a focus on the underrepresentation in the executive ranks. And she has helped promote and elevate and retain, and that's really a key word, 50 stellar women into leadership roles. As a champion and advocate and activist for people, Ericka thrives in helping others, developing strategies and opportunities that allow others to find their inner beauty, strength, and their voices. We are so pleased and privileged to welcome Ericka Riggs, who will lead this discussion tonight.
Thank you so much, Yvette. I'm so excited. This is a day of firsts. This is my first time moderating for MOBE. This is my first day on the job. And I will tell you, I don't often get nervous, but today I found myself riddled with a couple of nerves. And I think it's because I feel like at this very moment, this is a huge task that we are being asked to again pick up. And that is make sure that people hear us and see us. And so today, I've kind of muscled my way into this conversation. Derek had another vision. He and Walter talk all the time. And I just had to be a part of it a lot because I feel like the female voice is necessary, but also too, because I think we have 3 points of views that are very different. There is a difference in our geographical location, our genders, as well as our generations. But there's something very interesting that we all share, and that's a passion for change, changing and equity and justice. Our approaches very different, and I think we're gonna kind of dive into that today. But what is the intersection that brings us all together? And one of the things that I found very interesting, speaking to these two amazing and brilliant men, they're grounded by their family, and in particular, they're grounded because of the relationships that they have with their fathers. So let's kind of start there. Let's start there because I think we've got something really big to do, and that is kind of talk about what we're seeing in the industry right now as it pertains to marketing, advertising, and all these wonderful things. Just recently, 2 weeks ago, there was an article about the divide in marketing in terms of its gender, mainly in terms also of its race. It's become a CMO position has become that of white women. And before we jump into that, I would like for you all to kind of speak about how you've gotten to this point of being courageous and brave enough to have this opinion, to be able to speak up and speak out. And does it relate anything to the relationship that I talked about before with you all being grounded with your families? And Walter, you can jump in there.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm really, really excited to be on this panel. Finally, with Derek and you together. So this is dope. It's an interesting question. I think that, I learned a lot from my dad, right? And my dad was an engineer, right? At GE and Duracell. So truth be said, I always wanted to be like him. Right. So I was like, man, I want to do this engineering thing, but I had no idea what it was. He was the one that got me into advertising because when I came home from school without anything to do, he was like, do this web design stuff. And I had no idea what it was. I got in, basically lied on an interview. They were like, do you know HTML? I was like, yep. Do you know JavaScript? Yep. Do you know Photoshop? Yep. Got the job and then studied at a library and went and learned on the job. He had always taught me like the importance of patience. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that and I think that and Derek can attest, I'm sure you can as well. It's a lot of Black people. It's like when we were growing up, we have been it's been ingrained us to have to sit back a bit. Right. Like how many times you go out to the store and your parents say, don't you embarrass me when we go out here. Don't you say anything stupid out here. Right. Or when taught how to get in the car. All right, well, when a police officer talks to you, this is what you do. You lower your voice. You don't speak with an attitude. You put your hands on the wheel. So we have for so long, and all of us for decades have been kind of put into this place of having to feel like we shouldn't say much. Like we can't say much in front of white people and other people that don't look like us. And I think we've seen this boiling point and we've gotten to this space now where we are fed up. And I think we're tired. We're tired of it, right? So for myself, I think I've just gotten to a point where I just don't really give a shit personally, right? And I think it's important for us all to have a voice because it's not just me, it's not just Derek, it's not just you. There's so many people. I see so many voices, and I think it's a beautiful thing to see so many of us standing up and finally saying, enough is enough. This is what I want, or this is what we need.
That's a beautiful send-off when you say, your parents indoctrinated you into this concept of being quiet, waiting, don't say anything, because that's how I met Derek. Mm-hmm. Somebody had the nerves to say for us to wait. And Derek stood up in that room at 3% I had just gotten to New York. I had just started my job. And Derek stood up and said, what did you say, Derek? What did you say?
Oh God, I forgot. It was actually an out-of-body experience for me, because when I get angry, I tend not to have them. I don't remember it well, but pretty much, I guess the gist is, don't you ever ask us to wait. We've waited 400 years. You know.
That's exactly what you said. That's exactly what you said.
White women have hijacked, and I don't mean this any harm, but they hijacked diversity and inclusion and took it down the road. And everybody keeps going, well, once we fix the women's problem, we'll get to black folks. But then, of course, then we had LGBTQ, GQ, and we keep getting pushed back. But anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think let's continue down that path. I was going to actually pick that up a little later, but there is.
Let me chime in and talk about my dad.
Yes.
Because Willie is special. My father is probably was born in rural South Carolina, and his family has always been one to stand up. So much so, when the sharecropper didn't want to give them their fair right, we got ran out of Blacksville.
Mm.
So he's born in the 30s, so he was raised during those times when he couldn't even vote. He's retired Army drill instructor. I'm not as patient as, well, he realized I was never going to be patient, so he didn't even try to break me. He's like, run as fast and as far as you can. So I think that, and being in a community where, you know, parents, my parents are a perfect team. They were a perfect team until my mother passed. When one was good cop, the other was bad cop. But they switched roles. You know, the nurturer could be either one, and the disciplinarian could be either one. But they never were both disciplinarians or nurturers at the same time. So there was always a balance. And my father figured out I had a mouth on me and a small brain to back it. And he was like, always, if you know it, say it. And it served me well, I guess. You know, 30 years in advertising, I say things, and I looked at it and I was thinking about this today. I know it upsets people, but they still hire me. You know, they still pay me. So I think sometimes we do mute ourselves so much out of fear that we don't say the things we need to say. I mean, if all our fears were true, if you just followed my post, I shouldn't have any connections. Nobody should like me because I don't say anything soft and gentle. I just don't.
Well, let me ask you this. I feel like there's one way people can perceive that. And surely, you know, we know that you have those who are your fans and who support you, and really those people who cannot say it for themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they really have a great sense of respect for the fact that you're saying something that's not so far from the truth. It's actually the truth. And I think therefore, coupled with the passion, and then coupled with receipts, because you have to have receipts. You have to have shown people that you're able to do what you say and what you're fighting for. And well,
yes and no. See, sometimes it doesn't matter who says it if it's the truth. You know?
No, I believe people can say things, and people communicate differently. And I believe that people hear them differently. And I think that there's certain people that can truly say some very difficult and have difficult conversations, and it doesn't necessarily strike an accord where you get canceled.
Okay. Yeah. I think all of us should speak.
Yes, but to your point though, I think that you're right. I mean, let's be real. Let's look, and I don't mean to upset anybody that might be watching or whatnot, but like, How many black executives do you see out here talking real shit? Can you count? Right, that's a small handful, right? And I say that because I think that there's this notion of, right, and I don't want to speak for everybody, right? Everyone has their own reasons, but I think there's this notion of, if I say this, then this thing is going to happen to me at work, right? I've had I can't tell you how many people I've had send me direct messages on LinkedIn, taking my posts, forwarding it back to me and saying, I wish I could say this, but I can't say these things because if I say this, I could potentially lose my job. And that's fucking crazy, right? So it's unfortunate.
Well, it's the truth, though. I mean, again, let's go back to where we started. You have a strong foundation. You have shoulders that you stand on. You have a father and a mother, I'm sure, that have shown you how this looks, they've shown you how to speak up for yourself. And so there's a nuance in that. There's a nuance in being able to speak up and say the things that need to be said. So we want to talk about how and what that looks like right now. Because 2020 is, we all know, we can all agree, has been mind-boggling. We've got a president who just, half an hour ago conceded to to the election. He's done so much damage in the wake of that. We're here to really talk about what marketing looks like in this particular day and time and moment. And at the same time that we're trying to create new images for ourselves and have voices for ourselves, companies are also tightening up their marketing budgets, so they say. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing. Is that the right thing to do? Do you tighten your budget when there's so much to say? And marketing is such an influential part of what we do, in terms of our brands and how we're making these brands. I think the Black community, in terms of our cultural addition to making things hot and sexy, and I'm just going to say Nike, we have, I think our culture is absolutely one in which it determines whether or not those types of brands are going to be the hot, sexy brands. How are we able to really reckon with what's happening in 2020 from a marketing perspective?
Well, first of all, when we start to talk about the agencies and what these people are doing, what I'd like to put out there, my question I'd like to pose, and I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit left here, is what the hell happened to those millions of dollars that was supposed to get donated to all these different places, right? Like Derek, you and I were just having a conversation about this the other day, right? Like, there's been a lot of promises that we're going to give all this money to the community. First, let me just check that off the box, right? So that's number one. But number two, in terms of like how we market, did you want to touch on that, Derek? Because it looked like you.
No.
Okay, all right. So number two, I want to say is, look, I mean, this is crazy times, right? And I think we have a lot of like mouthpieces out here that are running and not doing the work. I'd say, and I'm gonna say across the board, like companies, executives, people are a lot like, and I've said it on many calls, like I'm tired of talking about this. Like, I want to see action. Unless I see action, then nothing is happening. We can talk about this until we're blue in the face. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about how we market to Black people, right? Black and brown people, I think what's most important is that a lot of these companies work on internally first, or you're going to end up like the Nikes, right? And I say Nike because did either one of you or many people even watching see the whole Instagram account that was created for Nike? So Nike was doing all this Colin Kaepernick shit and all this stuff for Black Lives Matters and everything. They had an entire account dedicated to all the Black employees who were saying all the negative stuff that meant like everything that was happening over there. And it was not a pretty place. No. Since then, that account was open for like 2 weeks before it was shut down, I think.
So how do we leverage this moment?
Well, first, we got to stop being afraid. See, you can't do anything different if you're afraid of what's the consequences. And I don't mean to talk. It's not like I'm talking about this in the theoretical realm. If you can't find your voice, if you can't use your voice at work, you might as well just keep on going the way you are. If we can't speak up, if we can't do different, because part of what we are is different. I'm not a Tom Burrell. Black folks aren't tanned white folks. You know, my experiences and my culture have shaped me differently. I think and see things differently. But if I can't bring those up, then how does the marketing change? If I can't be Black at work, if I can't be me at work, then how do I change the work? Because the work can't have my voice. It can't see from my perspective. It can't relate to the things that I know about the Black and the brown communities that make the message even more resounding with all the communities. All of that is tied to our fear that if I step out of line for a second, they're going to punish you. You know what? Sooner or later, we have got to, and this, I'm coming back to us Black folks for a second. We have got to say, well, you know what? If you're going to fire me, fire my ass. Because you're either going to step up or you're going to live in fear. And everything we do as an industry, advertising and marketing does as an industry, is afraid of something. The clients may not like this and they'll go away. You know, if I do this, my bosses may fire me. All the reasons for us not to do stuff is by that 4-letter word fear.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, so what would you say then to someone who, and I think this is the reality. I'm being the devil's advocate here, because I do say, you know, I have said, I have walked away, but I also have family. I also have a village where I know I'm not going to be on the street. You know, I know that poverty will not see me because I decide to speak up. So I guess my question then becomes, you know, how do we stand up and yet help those who need to stand up? How do we support them? I think about this young man, Kyle, the little white supremacist who killed the 2 people and harmed another one. He has a GoFundMe, and I think they took it down. But
yeah, he made bail.
On bail. So yeah. I'm wondering.
And he has a sponsorship deal.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, how do we need to start? We need to start making sure that we take care of one another so that people can speak. And to me, I think that's where in the 60s and the 70s, we had such strong memberships with our urban leagues and the NAACPs. They really did step up a lot and help a lot of people be able to say the things that they felt like they couldn't say.
Yeah, but let's make it easy. Let's make it real simple. It can start with helping each other. Yeah. Right? Because even we don't do that. No. Like we will go out and be like, hey, I'm going to do my job and I'm getting paid and I'm sitting in my nice house. I don't got to worry about this shit. Right? Like it starts with, and people don't understand, and I say this all the time, like helping people, when I talk about sending the elevator back down, it does not mean that you have to be an executive to help someone down here. You could be a manager. It could be your first job out of college and reaching back to your buddy over here who doesn't have an opportunity, right? It's when I sit at a table ensuring that I can bring another voice along with me. It's that when I get an opportunity to sit on a jury panel, I bring someone else that looks like me that might not have the same opportunities that I have, right? This is simple shit, right? So if we all could do this, right? Think about the opportunities we could provide for us, right? So I am where I am today because I've had people pull me along the way. I'll be honest. I was 4 people specifically, and they were all white, right? But they pulled me from every opportunity to the next opportunity. When one left this job to go someplace else, they said, you're coming with me, and I'm going to promote you, and I'm going to give you more money, right? All of our situations are different, but we need people who could stand up for us and each other, right? And sometimes it's not meaning, it doesn't mean you have to wait for the company to do something. Yeah.
Well, I think it's privilege that we have, and I don't think it's simple. I think it is difficult for people. I'm a single mother, but I'm a single mother who has like I said, again, I have an amazing support system. I also I'm a very, for lack of a better word, I'm successful. I'm a professional, but there were times when I can imagine, so I'm not going to say that it's an easy thing. I'm going to say, I think it's a difficult thing, but I think again, you need to speak up. You need to find your voice. And I believe that there's different approaches to do it. So for those of us who have voices as loud as ours, then I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure, because how do we harness the
Okay.
awareness into action?
Well, let me give you an example. I didn't start out this. This is years of doing this. The very first job I had at Kramer Krasel, I was in a meeting and they were talking about Black and brown parents not caring about their kids. And that's because they didn't show up at the PTA meeting. And here I am, a junior copywriter in that meeting, and I am fuming. I'm just livid. And my CEO turns to me and he says, either you tell them or I'm going to fire you. Speak your mind. And I told him, I said, look, what you don't understand is in Milwaukee, which is a working city, most Black folks and brown folks come in third and second shift. You schedule the PTA at 6 o'clock. These folks are either getting ready to go to work or they're sleeping for their night shift. So it's not that they don't care. Now you bounce your happy ass down to my church on Sunday morning and you stand up and you tell these people in church that they neither care or are interested in their child's education. Now, if you can get out of that church building whole, then your point will be proved. Because these women, these sisters will yank you up about you telling them they don't care about their children. Mm-hmm. Men are going to yell and scream at you. But here's the thing about that. After I left that job, I went to a couple of agencies where they were content for me not to speak. But I found even when I spoke, as long as I could do my job, it's amazing how all of a sudden they don't fire you. That idea that if I speak up, I'm going to lose my job. We have got to stop feeding that fear, people. It's not privilege. It's not tenure. I saw that in the comments. It's not being there long. You know right from wrong. And dear God, if you don't sit up in that Pepsi meeting and tell them not to use that Jenner child like that, and you were a Black person in that room, and that backlash happens, you deserve to be fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got to figure out sooner or later that we are not on a plantation no more.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to stay on this for a second because you guys got me, and you get Walter wanted Derek. This is Derek. I can only speak up for so many people. I am sick and tired of writing blogs and articles and then getting Black agency owners going, oh, can you write about this? Can you write about that? Because our clients are treating us like crap. Well, guess what? Your ass needs to write about it. We keep asking a small group of people to voice for everybody when we need a whole chorus of them. Yeah. And I can't emphasize this enough that, yeah, you may have to pay a price, but sooner or later, what price of soul? What's your dignity worth? If the Black agencies are tired of being treated like second-class agencies, then damn, stand up for yourself. Walk into a client and show them something new that wasn't asked for. Pitch a client as agency of record. These things, this vicious cycle of what we're seeing in 2020 continues because we are trying to protect what we have instead of taking the chance to get what we deserve.
I like that. I would say, Byron, I got to work with Uniworld for a period of my career. And I really loved the people that I met there because that was the sentiment walking down the halls there. Okay. And it was interesting to me because I didn't realize that we had a diversity problem. I just read the other day that someone said there's no Black people in Africa. They don't see themselves as Black people. They are Africans, right? So this whole concept of white and Black, that's something that we put on ourselves over here.
Think about for your marketing, this whole marketing. Our marketing has this Christmas season, and I posted about this today, but it's scary to me how many white commercials have Black music.
Oh yeah. That's a
Yeah,
fact.
that's what we
Tons of
talked about
stories.
before.
Yeah.
Our culture is for sale. Our,
Yeah.
you know, and I, you know, we say it all the time. You know, there are a lot of people who like the culture, but don't like the people. And I think I've seen people wear T-shirts with that, and that kind of is, you know, goes into, is this performative allyship that we're seeing right now? Are we calling that out just for shits and giggles? Or are we really trying to get people to change? Because here we go again today, Burt's Bees.
Yeah.
4 families, 4 family scenarios, husband and wife, nuclear family, and all of the photographs except for the one at the African American family. The father is missing. You know, how do we continuously market this?
Yeah, I think that's bullshit. I'm just call it what it is. It's bullshit, right? And it is, it's look, this is the same conversation like with the monkey on the boys, t-shirt from H&M, right? You go back to like, oh, did they have a person of color in the room? If they had a black person in the room, did they have a voice? And back to Derek's point of speaking up, right? I mean, this shit is just like as clear as day, just wrong. And I just want to say back to your earlier point too. I mean, in terms of speaking up and brand speaking up, man, Beats killed it, right? Beats killed it with that ad that they did last week, about the culture. And let's be real too, when we start talking about the culture and the impact that we make right now, like black and brown people, we are driving so much and we don't get shit in return for it, right? Here's a great example, and Derek, you'll probably laugh on this, right? Clubhouse, right? For those who don't know, Clubhouse is as an app that's been out for about a year. It's pretty exclusive. You have to get invited to be on it. Anyone who's on it is a social media influencer of some type, an executive or a celebrity, or one of the 3 really well, right? So I've been on it for a bit, and when 2 months ago, Derek too, this app was all white, right? And they were just talking about VC money, that's it. Fast forward to now, even 3 weeks ago, that app is 90% black, right? People, yeah. Oh yeah. And it is and it's the conversations that there's rooms where people talking about hip hop. There's rooms people freestyling rapping. There's rooms where talking about health, and there's rooms that are talking about technology. And the growth from that app is crazy. And now black people on that app have figured out how to drive revenue from it before the owners of the app. They're on here with Cash App and making money, thousands of dollars, right? Before this company even thought about it. So my point here is that we drive so much, right? And we create so much, but nothing comes back, right? It would have been beautiful if one of us made one of those, but we get onto another platform and then build it out and help these guys make billions of dollars. Now they're evaluated at what, $1 billion now, Derek? Something like that?
Walter, what's your thought around why not? Because you're in tech. You innovate creative. Because I know we know this. Everyone knows this, but why? I'm curious as to why don't we?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. And number one, let's be real. I've tried to launch my own thing as well, and I've tried to look for VC money and had a really hard time. I was getting rejected. And for me, it was myself and my brother. My brother is a lead prosecutor in the DA's office in Philadelphia. You can't tell me with him and myself running something, you wouldn't give the 2 of us money, right? But I'll put $100 down that if the both of us were white showing up, white executive from advertising space, a white lead prosecutor. Are you kidding me? Right? It's another to the Clubhouse thing. I've heard conversations of these kids on here talking oh, I got $3 million. I just showed them 4 pages of a PowerPoint deck and told them who my mom and dad was, and it's crazy, right? So I tell people, even people that I mentor, now, especially now while we're home, this is a great opportunity to build something, right? The people you're in college with, right? Your friends, your buddies, build stuff, launch it, roll it out. We are all home with access to the same technology right now. Same way we're doing this live thing here, another kid and their friends can go and do some live. And a lot of these kids have thousands of followers, right? So get out, do something, build something, try to run it out there. Clubhouse is a thing that they built and put out for VCs to have a place to speak. Next thing you know, the pandemic hits and then it jumps off because people have video fatigue, right? But there's so much opportunity, but we consistently jump on other people's stuff, build it up. Black Twitter, right? I mean, come on.
Well, it's funny because here's one of the questions, and Derek, please talk to it. But my question was, so how do we change this this cycle that we have where we're reactive to proactive, because I feel like we're acting to things, but we're not as proactive as we could be.
Let me get my black card so I can just turn it in right now. Before they come and get me. We have a problem with following instead of leading. When we are building our websites out, and stick with me, I'm gonna start with websites because that's the simplest thing, Walt. When we're building our websites, we copy what's been done. We don't ever approach it because we've been taught to follow the rules, that this is what how a website should be built. We look for that example and we copy that example. The same with apps, the same with anything else. Although we can and we have a possibility of originating, we have been taught and brainwashed to follow. So what we're not doing is we're not taking Versa. Am I saying that right?
No.
Versus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Versus. Yeah. Great example. Yep.
We're not taking Versus and turning it into something mega that's, that's profitable. And I'm saying we're not, but we are. But you see what I mean? We started something like that. Watch the white boys grab something. And I don't begrudge them if you don't do it. When we talk about looking for a job, I talk to young black kids and I say, hey, do a video resume. Do a video presentation of your portfolio. Well, that's not what they taught me. There's no rules. This is a street fight. I'm going to quote Rocky. In the streets, there ain't no rules. You know? Hit him in the balls. Eye gouging and biting is fair, but we come to this with a set of rules, like when we interview. How many young black kids are still being taught to dress up for an interview? You know, you work hard in college. You don't need to, all of the rules that we set up that they don't find a job from because we have moved on as a society from those rules that we've been teaching these kids. Look at how we're dressed. 3 professionals. This issue I have because I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, where people look at me and say, well, who are you? I don't get that from the white boys. They pay me to do my thing, and I don't have to justify my existence. But when I'm with my own people, I got to give you my pedigree, my education, the awards I won, the accounts I worked on.
Well, you know what? I hear you. I hear you.
But let me finish, because since I'm gonna go, I ain't gonna get no picnic invites. I'm gonna finish this one. We are the most creative and talented group of people in this country, period. I don't believe the Hispanics can lay up against us, and I know the whites can't. The Native Americans have been reduced to such a small number that we don't get to see their creativity. We just don't. But think about, we're always using our creativity for someone else's benefit. Yep. Always.
And so, from without having context, what you're saying looks as though it's a problem that was easily come to. It was a choice. But we know, and I know and we just don't have the time to go back. But the context is, when we look at, I think this movie, Love Country, what is it? Lovecraft.
Oh, yeah,
Lovecraft Country. It was so brilliant to me because it gives you an opportunity to get some historical context in a futuristic, and bring that all in this futuristic storytelling. And so what it does is it gives you the context as to why things have happened. It's set in the Oklahoma, riots, and it didn't just happen in Oklahoma. We know this, right?
It's
and we're
called
looking
Red Summer.
Right. And so we're looking at the resurgence of all of this. 70 million voted for the other guy. We know that of those 70 million, many of them feel the reason why they want to follow him is because he's a proud, white supremacist. Whether he says it or not, I don't need for you to tell me you're a duck when I see you walking and quacking like a duck. Okay. What I do see is a lot of our kids and a lot of our people and a lot of other people don't have context to who we are. So then,
well, let me stop you before, and now I'm gonna shut up. I never said it was easy.
Yeah.
We are brainwashed, and we are programmed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's PTSD.
Yes.
There is deep psychological issues, and yet then there are those of us who, in spite of all of that, are doing very well. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say something right now, and I want to hear what you all had to say, because I would say the Black women right now are really carrying the torch. 91% voted for Biden, and it's not just a political thing. I'm looking at the numbers that are graduating out of college. I'm looking at how, they are making sure really to make sure that the household is being taken care of.
Yep.
Now, as Black men, I'm curious because you all hear these, statistics and you hear these conversations, and us coming from different generations and everything else, I'm curious to hear what you all feel. And I see you, Derek, really going. Why don't you go first? Why don't you pick this up first?
I'm going to say something because most of my partners in advertising have been white. And I'm going to quote one who I will not use his name because I love his honesty. He said, D, you Black men are fucked. He said, we'll hire Black women all the time because they are no threat to us.
Okay, something just fell on that. That was perfect timing for whatever that was that fell.
My director just walked out. But what he's saying is an insight we don't get when you look at ad agencies.
So what does that mean then? What does that mean?
What he's saying is they'll bring Black women into a certain level because you're never going to get beyond that level, but you're not a threat to them.
So I would argue to say, and this is just my opinion, I think of any people, I think Black women have it worse, right? Yeah. And God forbid a Black woman over the age of 40. And I will say that because number one, let's ageism. Let's talk about ageism for a second, because ageism is a very real situation, right? Ageism, and it's a bigger situation clearly because it affects more people, right? Once you're over that 40 years old, right? And if you're not a VP or SVP or EVP or C-suite and you lose your job and you go get another one, it's going to be damn hard to get in there and get that job, right? So number one being over 40, number two being Black, that's double strikes, right? And then on top of that, three being a woman, because let's be real too, as a woman, even a woman as a whole, like it is more difficult, right? So I have to say that, these are people that have consistently had our back, have consistently taken care of the house, have consistently come and, helped us out of shit, right? They are the family's backbone, right? And on top of that, having to leave that household and do all that work and have to go out and find opportunities and be like, I just think that they have it worse. That's just
I'm not saying they don't have it worse. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is part of that worse, though, is this illusion that we bring them in. And I say, I'm using we, the royal we, all of us. They're brought into a situation where they're never going to succeed. They'll let one or two through. But we also have to look at, and you have to look at, how we treat young Black boys to exclude them from high school and college. They're never getting into the game. There are two ways to keep us down. My problem is I can't, for the life of me, understand why there's a gender war between black men and women. We're at the bottom of the boat. We all drowning together.
Well, I think you said it. I think you said it. There's a perception. And that's a negative perception for anyone to think that a Black woman is going to get in someplace and not succeed. That is a negative perception. And that's why so many of the small businesses that are starting, that are failing, that are succeeding are because of Black women. We will not give up. We're not even made like that. But
we don't have an ally. Here's the thing. Black women teamed up with white women through the Me Too.
Oh, but and we found out.
Black women led that.
They led that.
We led that. And again, it was taken over the same way affirmative action allowed white women to succeed and become chief marketing officers. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think very much the case that we know now for Black women is white women are not for us. They're not supporting us. They're not connecting to us. Now, truly right now, we are being so general, okay? Because to your point, Derek, I have had some of my best successes come at the hands of people that don't look like not all skin folk, kin folk, not all kin folk is whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Skin folk, yep.
Right. However, when I work with women who are coming through these programs and I see how absolutely enthralled and magnificent and brilliant they are, and I look at the challenges they're having, the biggest challenges that they're having happens to be not just inside the 9-to-5 job. As a matter of fact, I would argue to say getting to work sometimes it makes you feel better. It's when they're at home. It's when they're taking the train, because we don't have support. I was attacked at the grocery store by a crazy white.
I remember that.
Okay.
I remember that.
Right. And, again, so that's all over the place. So let me bring it back here. And that is, I feel like Black women are doing a magnificent job of staying focused. And I'm not saying that we don't have advantages and privileges, but I'm saying we have so many disadvantages. The fact that we still are surviving and thriving, I think I'd love to hear it more from our brothers. I would love to hear it more from the men, our other professional men, that thank you and yes, and everybody, a nice.
Hold up. Nobody's thanked us.
Oh, I think
hold.
I think Black men are also suffering from not being thanked, but what I'm doing is I'm not trying to compare oppression.
I gotta stop because I'm tired. I'm tired. I worked in advertising for 30 years and have never worked for a Black man, but I've worked for a Black woman.
I've neither.
At white shops.
Okay.
In advertising, when they reported the numbers this summer, who was absent? Black men. Mm-hmm. And nobody blinked.
I don't believe that's true.
How do you say no? Hold on. Stop a second. When you say no, hold on. I want to understand this. So when you say we weren't mentioned, in what terms? Like
I'm saying when the holding company started reporting the numbers, they not only reported by race, they broke it out by gender, and the only race that had the flip was Black, where it had less Black men than Black women. And we did not comment across social media a damn about the absence of Black men.
So here's the thing.
Wait a minute, no, because you wanted the real Derek. This is the real Derek, because I am tired of watching brothers get broke. Ain't nobody rolled up for us. I feel like the Santa and the Boondocks episode. What, ain't nobody got my back?
Yeah, but I don't believe that means that I feel like, because I feel as hurt for you as you should for others. But the bottom line is, I don't hear it. I don't, like you said, I don't see that on social media. As a matter of fact, we had earlier this summer, it seemed like the women were being absolutely.
Let me just jump in here. I don't give a fuck who on our side is up and who's down. I don't give two shits. as long as one of us or some of us are up. Okay. When you talked about love country and the music, what made that beautiful was because that was the first time that we had seen ourselves doing something like that, or in a movie that was like that, and it was inspiring. It was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see more of this. It's the same way when you look at the advertising space, right? And you see a lack of Black leadership across the board. I don't give a fuck if it's a man or a woman. Black leadership. This is about us coming together. So let's talk about that for a second, right? It is very much so like the NFL was in the 80s. How many Black quarterbacks did you see? None. You want to know why? Barely any. Because they felt that the quarterback had to be the smartest person on the team. And if you are Black, you are not smart enough to be in that role where you can run this team up the field to get that touchdown. You can go run, jump, and catch the ball all you want, but you're not going to be the guy calling those shots, right? It's the same exact thing. But over time, we saw people come out and change the way Black quarterbacks come out and completely change what that game could be, right? Complete from the ground up. Now seeing quarterbacks sprint, run, all this stuff, right? Get touchdowns. And when you look at the advertising space, it is very much the same way right now, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like you see a couple Black people at the top, and it's this fear of, well, I don't know if I really, especially as a creative director, right? Because a creative director is the quarterback of an agency. It is that individual who's calling the shots, who's saying which work should be put out forth in front of a client and pitched to that client to sell it through, right? So it is the same thing. So when I talk about who's doing what, and like all I care about is that there's more of us in the top and there's more of us in the middle, and we're taking everyone that's in the bottom and bringing them up.
And Walter, I would love it if we move this one.
Right. And I was going to say, that's a conversation that needs to be had, because we need to recognize that we are going to be stronger together and we're going to move. Listen, there's I was looking for this. There was a research done about how, and I cannot find my card on it. So I'll have to send it to you later, because it talks about it. That's one of the reasons why I even brought that subject up, because I feel like we need to talk about how we come together and get stronger.
Right. Can I bring up one more thing? And I apologize. I just want to bring up one more thing because it's just on the tip of my tongue. And I apologize for cutting you off, Ericka. But what we also see here is this built-in thing of like from culture, from decades of being told to act and be a certain way, right? Like it is very much this slave mentality, right? The house niggas over here, and if you do something and that owner puts a house nigga in the house, and he's gonna have a bed and a place to eat, a little bit of better food, but you better tell me when these motherfuckers outside is slipping up, right? This house nigga's coming outside and like, oh, you're not doing the job. I'm gonna go ahead and tell him, right? And you're not gonna do the job, and I'm gonna make sure you're not right. And I'm gonna make sure. Oh boy, here we go. Broach that one. And I'm gonna make sure, and I'm gonna make sure you're not doing the job, because guess what? Like, I don't want you taking my spot up in here. I'm comfortable right now. So I'm not trying to ruffle these feathers.
That's a good one. The one and only syndrome.
Yes, absolutely.
There is a one and only syndrome that unfortunately disproportionately throws people out the game because we don't have the right inventory. Because if it's just a one and only, okay, so that's a whole other thing. And you know what? And we've got to hurry up about this, because right now we're already seeing that it was March when the energy and the force and the marching was really at its peak, right? We are just now in November, and the demand for change, the voice, how loud the strength is going. It's the ebbing and the flowing. We are now at an ebb. And so what do we do? How do we walk? Okay, so we're going a little late. We need to, it's 7:53, you guys.
Look, I'm good to go another hour if we really I'd like. I can, if they want to let it go,
when you
I'll
get
go.
done, we get done.
This conversation was meant to be like this. It was meant to be just what we do, which was no real questions, but just this is what we do. We talk about it, and believe it or not, we agree, we disagree, but what we agree on more than anything is we need to be moving. Walter, you are moving. You are doing things in your space right now by just being there and really being that leader, being that Black male leader that we don't see very often. Derek, your role as the agitator, as the voice, it's important. I'm curious, where do you see, what would you like to see really happen, or what is it that you feel like right now you're missing, you're not able to get out there, that you feel would be a big change? I know we talked about the Kumite earlier. Did you want to talk a little bit more about something else that you're working on?
I'm not going to be that person that pitches it and wants
No,
to roll his eyes.
I want the concept. I want that. That's what I mean. I don't need the pitch, but I mean like the concept of where you see the change.
I think the change is we haven't dealt with we can hire as many people as we want in any position you want. But you notice the C-suite hasn't been broken.
Oh, yeah.
There are no CEOs of no new black CEOs of any agency, of any white agency. There's no CMO, there's no COO recently. That's because there is still this lie that we are not enough. Black folks aren't talented enough, experienced enough, knowledgeable enough. They just don't understand enough. That's something that we can't fix, and we shouldn't have to fix. That's a white boy problem. Now we need to help them change, but we seldom look at everything we do in the DE&I space. It's about making us more attractive to white folks. It's not about addressing how white people think, because that's the problem. You know, I have put in candidate, I have introduced people, male and female, who are spectacular. And what they do is they hold them to the letter of the law of the job description. You got to check off every little box. And I know these people, and I know these agencies, and the people they hire, the white people they hire on potential. Well, we can grow them to this position. Well, why couldn't you grow the black candidate to this position? That's a mindset we can't fix. We can call them on it, but we can't fix it.
Well, I think it's very obvious. Look at what we have 4 years of a man telling you how awful and evil and everything else he was, and 70 million people or more voted for him. So there is a division in our workspace. So you're right. We are still working to we're still working with, and I'm seeing more and more articles that are kind of leading to that. Do I have to turn the other cheek? I don't think so, because they're already showing us what they like. You know, is that the strategy moving forward, that we got to, you know, turn the other cheek to these people who we know mean no you know, well intent for us? And
I don't think you turn the other cheek, but look at the ramifications of the thinking.
Right.
A black woman is never confident, professional. She's assertive, she's bitchy, she's whatever in her evaluations, because they have this idea. The same with black men. I'm never passionate. I'm always angry. Go to my Twitter feed and watch how the white guys describe me. That mindset doesn't just cripple in the hiring. It cripples in the evaluation and the retention. It cripples all the way up and down the board. So what are we, to your point, until we call them on it?
Let's be real. Look,
listen, I think we've called everybody to the table. I think though, like, just like if you go outside right now and drive your car, there are street signs, there are rules to the road. If we don't put some rules to the road within some of these agencies, some strong consequences, and the only thing that matters in business is money. So if you don't attribute that and attach that to a consequence, a financial consequence, then we have tried to change people's empathy. We've tried to go that route. But at this point, is it that you want to be liked, or do you want to be respected? And if you're respected, then pay me, hire me, and retain me.
But they won't. But that's what I'm saying is we act like, and this is the real scary part for me. Those 70 million people that voted for Trump, they were always there.
Mm-hmm.
They caught us 4 years ago and we never saw them coming.
That's why we're still at 2.5%.
Yeah, but the reason we didn't see them is because our idea of what a racist is somebody waving a Confederate flag and wearing a hood and lighting crosses on fire, and they're silly and they're stupid. No, the racists are doctors and lawyers and CEOs.
Absolutely.
The HR directors.
Absolutely.
And you know what?
But here's what I say too. That's a great point.
Let me finish out now.
Go for it. Go ahead.
The problem with it is we underestimated the enemy. And we're shocked by when they reveal themselves. I don't like that they're going to go underground again. What I'm saying is we've got to find a way to keep them in the light. To your point, yes, you need those rules, but you got to understand the rules are not going to be enforced because half of the people in charge of enforcing the rules are wearing that mental hood. They're burning that mental cross. They're not. You can put those rules in place and watch how HR treats you when the person running HR is racist.
Yep. Let me make a point on that, please. Valid points, all valid points, yes. And this is why I find it annoying when we continue to do bias training, right? Yeah. Because bias training is not going to change a person who's racist or a person who thinks a particular way about a particular group of people that are already 30 and 40 and 50 years old. It is not going to change their mind. It's going to, I mean, realistically, especially when we're home, right? It's going to be some shit that they click through while they do something over here like this and click through, right? They don't care about that. And this is what, like, I was even on a call recently with some Black executives, and it was like, okay, well, we're going to talk about what we can do, and let's go back and look for these numbers, and fuck the numbers, right? Like, we've had numbers come out. They've come out 10 years ago. The numbers haven't changed, right? We're all Black executives. Know what you can do? Hire.
Yeah.
Simplest fix. Let's not talk. This is the point where I get to my point of, like, I'm tired of the talk. I'm tired of people talking about doing this and training this and no, hire. If you have the opportunity to hire. There are allies out there. I make jokes about this guy I used to work with, at TBWA. This guy Brian. I used to make jokes saying, like, Brian is really, he's the ECD. Brian is really a chief diversity officer because that boy was bringing in more Black people than you could even count. Yeah. Right. So you want to make an impact? Hire. You have the opportunity to bring on a head? Hire. It's that simple. It's really that simple. If you're EVP and you're hiring someone else, guess what? You're bringing on an SVP. What about that type of impact, right? So that's what I tell people.
And you can hire them, Walt, but here's the thing, and this is all I'm asking for, is we've got to understand why we aren't cracking the C-suite. It flows.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's because the C-suite is a bunch of buddies who've known each other for their whole lives, 20, 25, 30 years, who look and say, well, shit, and who really might be like, I do want to help these people, right? Yeah. But if I help this person, that means my buddy Joe might have to lose his job. I don't know if I have room to bring on someone else because that now means it's going to affect my money and my bills that I have to go and pay, right? When in actuality, you can create more room at the table. Look at these agencies. Tell me how many chief strategies officers you see at these companies. How many chief creative officers you see at these companies? Lots.
I was
Make the room at the table.
Say that. I agree with you. I believe that because I'm an optimist. So I have to be optimistic. I have to be, because not only do I have to be optimistic, but I also have to realize that there's an innovation, whether it be that of the energy that's in the air. Things have changed. It's better than it was 50 years ago or 100 years ago. But the propelling force, it's too weak and it's too slow. And so now we know, we've seen the history, we've seen this golden era, we've seen the pressure, we've seen civil rights. But what happened? I believe we stopped providing the pressure. And let's go back to, this is marketing, right? So as Black consumers, money really has the most, I think, powerful changing force, right? When consumers get together and they decide, I'm not going to spend my money with you, that has some real effects of change. So I believe it's a multifaceted approach that needs to happen. We need to have the pressure. We need to have people who are out there in the streets. We also need to have people inside of these rooms that are innovating and telling people, why don't we make more room? Why don't we be a little bit more creative in how we do this? And we need to also let people know we can create our own. We can innovate and do our own clubhouse. But we also realize the barrier to doing that is because, to your point, Derek, people who are handing out the money or people who are providing the solutions, the infrastructure, they don't look like me. Therefore, I am sometimes not given the opportunity. So how do then we create all of these? How do we do all of these different things that need to be done? I would like to believe that somebody's got something a little bit more optimistic than nothing is happening and nothing can be done, because I don't.
No, I don't. I'm not even saying. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, we're not fighting. We're not addressing the real problem.
What's the way you see it? I think we have. What?
No, I'm saying. I think what we should have done is looked at diversity and inclusion like it was an advertising problem.
Yep.
And if we had looked at it like it was an advertising problem, tell me who the target audience is. And this is where we sort of missed it. The target audience from everything we're doing is black people. But the target audience is white folks. They need to change. And to everything you're talking about, then we would have identified the hurdles where what keeps us, let's talk, Lord, a creative talking about strategy, but what are the hurdles to us getting them to change?
Well, yeah, I agree.
We haven't identified all of that. We haven't. Walt, I agree with you on bias training.
I think some have it. I think some people are getting it right. Okay. But I think I've seen some brands get it right. I've seen some
brands, but remember, brands had the government mandate. You know,
I got that. But I also,
you know what though?
Go ahead.
You know what? Agencies get it right when brands want it to be right. Right? That's what I think. Right? So brands there's been plenty of people who come, like Beyonce, coming in a room and walking out of that room saying, nope, nobody here looks like me. I'm not doing business with you. Right? When brands, and even looking the agency in Houston, Dallas, right? One fuck up, all the clients left. Now they're going and rebranding, trying to figure that whole situation out, right? So it's, to Derek's point, like, yes, like they need to be held accountable, and when they fuck up, like, we need to cancel them, right? They need to get canceled, right? Because that is when you see when you see money being affected, that's when change happens.
Look at HP. They asked those 5 agencies to be more diverse. They gave them a year and set up goals. And I told Antonio this, and I wish he was on here because he'd tell you. I told Antonio Lucio, they're gonna hire white women, and that's exactly what they did. And then the second year they said, no, you don't get away with that. Hire black folks. One of the agencies actually lost their black people and kept the account. See, you got to follow through then.
Right. And so I think again, to your follow through is important. I feel like the whole ideology surrounding what we have grown up with here in America, which is a white supremacy ideology, and it has touched everybody. And so not only does it affect white people, it affects the immigrants that come here. It affects everybody that drinks the water. Okay. And so that's why I believe in strong voices. I believe in consumer having power, and we do with our dollars. I believe we need to get more engaged. We talk about kids in school not doing well. You put these kids in these schools and there's no educators that look like them. They don't get the same out of them. They don't get that same brilliance out of somebody because they don't see the brilliance in them. And so it starts so young for our kids, this drinking the water that even us, it takes us so long to peel off the ramifications and the absolute negative effects of living in a world where you are constantly being marginalized. And that's why I believe, I've heard people say, well, DE&I people aren't doing anything. No, you need all of them. It's like playing chess. You need your pawns, you need your queens, you need your kings, you need all of them to do what needs to be done so that we can somehow bring about change.
We need them if they're doing their job. If they're not doing their job.
But I say that about everybody. I say that about everybody.
I'm gonna roll everybody into that comment. But I'm gonna be optimistic. I believe I could change. I bet money one client could change all of this tomorrow. If Procter & Gamble said that every one of our agencies will be diverse in 90 to 120 days,
that would, yeah.
The whole industry would change. The absolute whole industry. We don't understand how big a dog is wagging that tail. When Procter & Gamble said we're going to 120 days of paying agencies, everybody changed how they paid agencies. And everybody accepted that. And I'm saying everybody, I'm talking hyperbole, the majority of them. When the biggest bully on the block decides to get into this game, and Mark Pritchard has been celebrated way too much for doing way too little at Procter & Gamble. So y'all can send him my way, and the young man that works under him, he can come my way too, because I ain't heard from them in a year. So I really, but they can produce videos, but they can't turn to their agencies and say, we need to see better diversity numbers. And we applaud them and celebrate them for a video, while they have not mentioned to their client, to their agencies, change your diversity numbers. And the second they do it, Coca-Cola does it, McDonald's does it.
Yeah.
Everybody falls in line. Nike gets away, and I'm sorry, we're getting out. Nike gets away because of one thing and one thing only. Wieden & Kennedy is so black.
Yeah.
But the rest of the Nike agencies are so white. And that's almost a crime. These clients could change it. I'm optimistic. I could change it tomorrow if you could get the CEOs of 4 to 5 top advertisers to make it a mandate. I'm happy.
Well, listen,
I believe you there.
This is the conversation that you have with a nice bourbon. This is, or iced tea, Derek. We have, I think, held this conversation in public, and Lord knows, we said what we feel, and that's exactly what we meant to do. Yvette, you here to take us out?
Yes, I am. I'm here to thank you, number one, for opportunity to sit and hear, the thoughts of people who have been in this industry for a long time. And, we have to challenge, we have to demand. I'm also an optimist, but, I stopped pitching ad agencies a long time ago, created my own media property and had all Black people, pay for the printing. And sometimes I could pay writers and sometimes I couldn't because I had something to say. So I think that what's left out of the conversation is what we can own and what we can do and how we can communicate on that Black Twitter to our consumers about controlling the narrative. Because, we said a lot. I'm just going to go and highlight some of the things you said. I thank you, and thank you for the conversation. It's needed. But we started out with Black Dads Matter, and I really appreciate you starting out with that, because we do have fathers, we do have men, we do have relationships in our community. And that's another thing that advertising is doing, is just zapping the Black male we talk about 30 years ago when we started Real Men Cook, we thought we were talking about is black male on the way to extinction. Well, yeah, if you look at TV, this distinction or buffoonery, because if somebody else is controlling that narrative, we'll never have a father that has any sense in our lives. And these two men have given us examples of that. So I thank you with that first. The second thing, a couple of things, is that what I heard is from Ogilvy and Mather to Leo Burnett to Wyden and Kennedy, all the way down from those top 15 ad agencies. We should know who they are. Tell the consumers who we are. Have the hip hop community know who they are, because they're controlling our minds, they're controlling our dollars, and what they're not controlling is flow back to our communities. If you don't have businesses that you're hiring to do this, it's not only jobs, because jobs are not going to build wealth. We start with jobs, but that's only half the story. I love what you came up with in terms of the Coca-Colas, the McDonald's. Challenge those agencies. Challenge those agencies, because it's enough little boutique creative agencies to take some of that business away if the agencies don't comply. And that's what's missing. Black agencies were the boutique agencies, and we could build Black properties, media properties, because there were, in Chicago, maybe 7 small Black ad agencies that were constantly doing business. And I mean, they're gone. They're absolutely gone. And so that we have to keep these conversations coming, and we have to really lift up the people that are doing something to make a difference. And I really think that the conversation has helped give our audience some insight into what's happening. I think we need insight, we need answers, and I think we had provided a few suggestions on how to do that. Send the elevator back down. I love that. We have to bring the masses with us when we get that door pried open. We got to kick it open and hold it open. And that, the Black leadership is required. The dollars, where are they? The millions committed as we saw murders. It was like every night on TV, seeing somebody getting murdered by the police. Nobody could argue at this time that Black men are being unfairly approached, attacked, and murdered. And there were millions of dollars reported to the flow. Have those flown back? They'll have those dollars come back to Black businesses that then can hire Black people if white people don't. Until white people do, that's what has to happen to me immediately. So I could go on and on with the gems that were shared tonight. And I really appreciate you. And the conversations will continue. MOBE Mondays is not going anywhere. MOBE Tuesdays is still here. And we're going to have to actually have a conference in April that we're planning right now. So are there any closing remarks that you guys would like to make?
I want to thank you, Yvette, because I know you've been doing the work of it. You've been out here beating the drum and for a long time, and providing recognition to people who often don't get it. So I want to thank you for providing this platform and allowing us to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Derek, we thank you.
I want to also, I got to thank her, because if she hadn't introduced me to you guys, I wouldn't have known. Gwen Kelly gets a hat tip.
Yeah. Yes, she does.
She doesn't get the flowers she deserves sometimes. So I'm going to tip my hat to Gwen, because if not, I wouldn't have known who you were.
Well, I appreciate that. And Gwen we go back, the Chicago sisters got something going on out there.
Yes.
All right. And Walter, would you like to in closing?
Yeah. No, I mean, nothing but just saying thank you for everyone for spending the time with us and listening to the three of us ramble about this stuff. It's so important that all of us use our voices. It doesn't matter how big or how small. Like, if you can impact or make and influence one person, that's more than enough.
Yes, and these conversations must continue. We cannot let them die. We cannot be flavor of the month, because that's what happens to a lot of our social issues. Something else comes up, and we turn our heads. This got to be hammered in. And we've got to suggest what we suggested here on the panel to people in their face and say, this is what I want you to do. Measurable results. That's what they ask us for, right? Measurable results. So we have something happening next Monday, and I'm going to ask Yvonne to fill us in so that you all can, everyone join us. We have a very hot topic again coming up next Monday. Yvonne?
Thank you, Yvette. Next week on Monday, November 30th, we have Buried Alive Part 2, The Disconnect, Disregard, and Disrespect Endured by Black Senior Executives. Our moderator is award-winning journalist Ed Gordon, and our speakers will be Dorinda Walker, CEO of Cultural Solutions Group, Yvonne Orell, Senior Principal Consultant of Your Consulting Group, and Richard Jones, Consultant in Organizational Development. Hot topics to come, and we hope that everyone has a peaceful and thankful holiday season this week. We'll see you on Monday.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Stay safe, mask up.
What is it you think? Did you guys see this? Is this